everyone. This is Reverend Kenneth Price on Sunday, October 27th, with Reverend Dale Blackford for for his, well, no, it's our Sunday afternoon Zoom. Let's see, podcast. Last week, and I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know if I wanted to call it a lecture, sermon, or a podcast. Let's call it a podcast for actually it is his Sunday afternoon podcast, Freedom from Suffering. And Reverend Dale and I have known each other for about 15 years. And on or about sometime last spring, we got together and decided to join forces and to create a ministry, 2ormorer1.com, and to see which direction it would go. And it's become a platform for Dale to share every Sunday, and so that I get the opportunity to record him. Dale's been a Unity minister for decades and decades. I've been a minister for a little bit less than a year. We're both on the same page. All roads lead to Rome. It's definitely not a Christian ministry, although Dale is a Unity minister, but he takes the message from Unity and takes it to the next step. He takes it down the rabbit hole of metaphysics and mostly unwinding ourselves from what's not true, which is the ego. Uh, that's why we have to get close to an hour every Sunday, because this takes a lot of work. I'm a minister for Living Church Ministries, which is under the umbrella of David Hoffmeister, who is a Course in Miracles teacher. So somehow our forces seem to match, and this is what we've come up with. So this is the last week in October. So Dale, what do you have to share for us this Sunday? There's always so much, but I just listen very carefully.
Well, I don't know. I've always, we'll just see what happens here. I know one thing kind of popped in my head. I might start with that because uh, a lot of what we're talking about here is, we're talking about. I had written something on Facebook that said that basically, like, drama is personal, reality is collective. Um, about how, the whole thing about the fact of we are who we are as one, and we're one, and not the individual, the avatar that we pretend to be, the self, um, and the self living in this world. Much of what we're talking about here, well, all of it's based on that reality that we aren't who we think we are, that we're not the self and the sense of individuality that we're projecting ourselves to be, and that we're also we're projecting back within ourselves to convince ourselves that this is who we are. Uh, and we're all, like, the whole planet's pretty much drunk on that. Not everyone, but I mean, pretty much drunk on that. And so this is kind of really to help people sober up. Not to, I mean, the point is not to that you don't have to make changes. If it's all again about observation, about, Jesus said, know the truth, and the truth would make you free. He didn't, again, I've said this before. He says he didn't say know the truth and then figure out what to do with it. He just said if you'll simply know the truth, the perception, that which is irrational or insane, what do you want to call it, will unravel, and that's okay. And then, you're a person's awareness of an attachment to who they think they are. That will unravel as well too. You don't have to change that. You don't have to make it wrong. You can still be in this world and attached to it like you're of it. But as you start noticing things and being more aware, you'll start seeing that you can't be of it, that you, in fact, that you aren't of it. It isn't even that you can't be of it. You can't make yourself of it, that you never were of it, and you never will be of it, and that all of that is fading away as we get older. And we talked about this too, as we prepared to move on, that starts to become apparent for many people, not everyone. In fact, most people know they are holding on to the bitter end until basically the spirit within them says, guess what, it's time to let all that go. And there's then that's the Kubler-Ross stuff, like which has been going on all along, but it's intense. It's like anger, denial, bargaining, all failing into depression, which is was a blissful place, because full depression leads to acceptance and freedom of letting go of what you never really had, letting go of concepts and stuff. And so a lot this podcast, that's really what I'm bearing witness to in speaking, is that reality, that like of how do we, not even how do we let go, but just that is happening, and to start accepting and making peace with who we are in that process, because we're doing it just right. We can't do it wrong. Um, and so but I want to bear witness, and be a mentor, and just bear witness to the stand that you can support yourself as you are. Then you start to see that the parts of yourself that you created will start being harmonious with you too, and come. It's like the separations start to disappear, and there's a self-love, actually unconditional love of one and all can be then, because you're no longer able to hold the opposite position, which is you need to have discernment as to the parts and the actions that are right and wrong and all that. I mean, in this world, everything is wrong. I mean, everything is like right and wrong, because it's a polarized illusion that we've created, a polarized uh, theme park that we've immersed ourselves within, and it's going to be that way. I mean, it is you don't make it better. You don't make it better. You wake up to the reality, and then you could actually be in this world and not of it, which is bliss. To be in this world and not of it. In other words, to actually be in this sensual awareness and this sensual experience without judgment, and knowing that, in a sense, this isn't true, but from the polarized view, that in essence, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, your nature has got your back. There's nothing there to harm you. It appears that way in the world, of course it does, because we're trying to make something happen that is impossible to happen, and that is peace of mind and freedom in a divided illusion, something that only becomes peaceful when we allow it to be whole, and to accept that, which is a mystery. We can't really necessarily see how all the pictures dissolve and come together. We have to basically look at how all the complexity about how trying to hold it together does not work. Eventually, like myself, we go into this, what we call the dark night of the soul, and that dissolves, that starts to dissolve. And always, it's not because we get insight that we ought to let go. It's because we can't hold on anymore. People die and let go of everything because they can't hold on to it anymore. They can't hold on to it anymore. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Holding on is a temporal illusion, and we can't maintain doing that. So it's starting to look at, the realities of things, and then this is the thing, because we know in our sense of ego that we've created knows that if we look too closely, it's going to start unraveling. And we know that unconsciously. We all know that unconsciously. So to let it, and if you let it go unravel, let it unravel, then you're no longer, like we talked with that analogy, you're no longer in the community of caterpillars, the crawlers. You're then have come into a cocoon of awareness that is supporting your transformation, your sense of transformation, because it isn't just you, everything's transforming, but your awareness of transformation starts to happen in there. And it's happening leading into do that to the point where you end up secluded in that cocoon. And again, why we're doing this program, because if you have a sense of seclusion, like you are in an isolated sense of that happening, that can be pretty scary when you realize you're not alone, and you're not in a sense of like, if there is a cocoon like that, you're actually in a cocoon with not only all the crawlers, they're there, but all those that are in transformation of awareness, letting that go, and those avatars who, or not avatars, but those who have those in awareness who have actually come farther along into being the butterfly and testing their wings. One butterfly, not many, but one. So we're doing that in this program, and is to look at that and to, I mean, if I think if the whole thing about this world is to really laugh because it's nonsense and we're making it so serious, and it's because we can, and we can laugh because the solution to the nonsense is already being taken care of. We don't have to eliminate the nonsense. We have to at some point accept that it's nonsense in the sense of how we see it. Now, the reality of it is not nonsense. The essence of it is not, but how we're seeing it is nonsensical. And that has to be allowed to release. And we don't make that happen, but we do start to see it happen more as we notice it. Again, Jesus says, know the truth, and the truth will make you free. In other words, see the truth, and the lies will unravel. They just will unravel because the truth creates no basis. It takes away the basis for the energy and the vision and anything you have you to think you're crafting to keep it in place. It starts to dissolve away, and it makes the part about it that's very different from how most people live in the world. Almost all people in the world is you really allow the world and your sense of self, in essence, to die. It isn't killed, it isn't murdered, and what I mean by die is to lose its sense of reality, substance, truth, uh, uh, meaning. You lose it, and you don't get replaced with another meaning that's better. The meaning that exists is the one meaning that permeates everything, and you let yourself go into that. And in essence, like I was talking to my mother about this today, where it's like with a lot of people fear this because they say, well, what happens if you lose the sense of individuality? I don't want, like my father was here and I want to see, or someone you love, you want to see in the afterlife or something like that. You want to have that connection with them. Well, you already had that connection with them, and it was very dumbed down, very filtered down, because it had to be experienced in the limitations of how this world functions and how you've allowed it to function. Like your love you can only feel so much love with someone. You can't allow yourself to like to consciously look like merge with them on this planet, because that's not, people think that well, that's, they're crashing their boundaries or something like that. But in reality, when you love something, that love that you have with someone, even when you're close to them on this planet, I mean, it's boundless love that as that's released, you're in that and it isn't like two individuals recognizing each other. It's the one recognizing the whole back together. And that is even hard to explain. And but it is like I say it because it's like the perfection of the safety and the security that we're looking for, while we're still clinging to the things we're holding on to this world to create that safety. The loss of that false sense of safety, of just limited way of holding things together, when we let go, it opens. It's like on the planet, for instance, when you certain ways. If you let go of anything, if you truly let go of something, the universe will provide. I mean, the universe is providing for it always, all the time. But if you let go of it, you truly let go of it, you get to experience it. Like, for instance, say prosperity, money, and things, or things you need for your life. You're fully provided for, and it's always around you. But we craft it in a way that we think through our mind that we're making it happen, and others are participating, and there's limits of how it all comes together, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. We throw luck in and hard work and effort and stuff and will and stuff like that. Well, that's all the drama we play, while the whole thing is actually playing out before us perfectly. And it's how we stay on the edge of it and the surface of it without looking inside, and still think that we're making it happen, where we're not. We're just spinning things. And when you let go, like, for instance, if you truly, like, say, this is practical. For instance, if you really truly let go of your need to provide for yourself, you will be fully provided for. Now, you will not be provided for in the way that you want to be provided for, because in reality, that is far too limiting. You will be provided for much larger than that, but it'll be in a way that you'll just have to trust, because it's in the moment. It's not stored up for the future. It's not repairing the past. It's the moment actually revealing itself. So, but how it plays across the planet is if you need something now, it's there, or it's equivalent, which may be larger than that, maybe much different than that, much more, but it will be more freeing than that. Always, always. There's no chance of it not being that way. Now, will it be what you say you think you want? No, I can't say that because, again, that's way too limiting. But again, that's where we're sitting here, where maybe that's where, most people are, is it's they think it's too limiting because it isn't limiting. What it is it's like it's uncontrollable. And if you can't control it, if you can't control your sense of what you want and who you are, that for most people that just scares them really, it scares them. Doesn't do anything to them, but it just scares them. And someone says, well, somebody committed suicide because they were scared of that. Yeah, you can do that, but you aren't your body either. And you do not end when your body ends or when this existence ends. If any, whether you kill yourself, you die of disease, or you just are taken up like Elijah in a, with a chariot of flame or something like that, or however you see it, it's freedom. It's a return to everything. Okay. So I think part of what I guess when I do on this planet for me is I try to really help bring light to the lies, not to end the lies, not to say that you should change the lies, but to look at something and say, you know what? I'm holding on to this. I'm afraid to really look at it. It's like the Emperor's New Clothes, that story. I'm afraid to be the little boy that says, he doesn't look at what will happen, the repercussions from what he does. He just looks at the guy with no clothes on and says, the guy's naked. Everybody else is saying, no, you cannot say that because we have to hold this together. He's just like, no, the guy's naked. So we look at things and say, we show what's naked. We expose what's naked. And part of this program, like if you're watching this program, some of the stuff we'll expose on this program, you're not going to like because you're trying to hold it together. And if you I can't warn you on this because you're here for a reason. If you leave, it's for a reason, or if you say yes to it, it's for all kinds of things collectively for, as far as your awakening on that. But it can be scary once you start to unravel things, and you agree to unravel, like you agree that you can no longer keep things together. This is how it kind of happened. You know this with me, Kenny. When things start to unravel and you don't have any vision or juice to maintain it, it's just something you have to do because there's nothing else to do. That doesn't mean you're sitting there going like, oh, wow, everything's unraveling. This is the great, it does show up that way as you move into it. But from the beginning, looking at it, you're sitting there going like, holy, whatever, this is scary. And again, why we do this together? Because we're doing this together. And so that's pretty much, like last week, I talked some about the politics and how the illusion of the politics. And I was thinking today I was going to talk to the illusion of sexual gender. That's what
Well,
I'm
that's
going
a
to.
good one because last week I put that topic came out right away because I want a topic that jumps out. Donald Trump was last week, so let's touch that one this week. Good.
Well, this reason why this came up to me to even look at it was I was looking at something like a couple of universities where I think it was Las Vegas or no, Nevada and yeah, Nevada and San Diego State. And it was an interesting article because they wouldn't even address what the issue was, but some of the students from like Nevada or something were not going to participate in a volleyball game with the others, and all I could tell was it had to do with um, um, I'm drawing a blank now, but change of gender, participating in sports, and an inequality for that. Like for instance, and I guess what I saw from that because wasn't explained very well, but it does point out an issue which has been an issue, which is like, say when a male, generally a male with male body structure becomes a woman. And there have been cases like I remember a while ago there was some young guy in like I think it was college or high school area where he became a woman, and then he entered into I almost want to say it was a wrestling or something like that. and I don't know if women do wrestling, but it was a physical thing, and he was just cleaning the clock of all the women in that thing because of who he was. He was just, South Park
uh,
did a thing about that too one time, which of course, they do it just grossly imaginative. Like
uh,
there was a woman who was entering into this Olympic kind of thing, and this guy's like real butch and rah, but I'm a woman, okay, and he was just knocking the bleep out of everybody in the sport or whatever it was, and in the competition, and that becomes very aware of the problem with that when a man transitions into a woman, okay? Because and then enters into women's sports because of the muscle structure and the memory and all that that's carried into that. If it's the other way, it's not so much a problem. You're not hearing about women who become men dominating men's sports. You don't hear that. You hear the other way more, okay? But it doesn't matter. They're both the same in one sense. And I got to thinking about that because particularly with like the use of language, where there's been a real movement with that kind of stuff to really reduce everything to like they them, like get rid of sexual language so that everybody becomes like the same, they, them, and no one has any distinction or anything like that, which in the world is actually kind of crazy. It's really crazy because this world is a world of duality. I mean, and it isn't a spiritual, it's a world of duality. I mean, you have males and you have females. You have penises and you have vaginas. You have, that's what you have. Of course, men can have breasts, but not like women have breasts, that kind of stuff, and muscle structure and all of that. And you have men and women. Okay. And like with restrooms too, like the concept, the thought about, well, like if you want privacy for your sexual determination in this world, again, this is in this world because in reality, it has nothing to do with who you are. You are every sex. You are everything in reality. I mean, it isn't even, you're not limited by sex. It's just a flavor that you're projecting in this world. Okay. That isn't who you are. You never were that, and if you're persecuted for that, you're persecuted because everybody persecutes everybody if they're different. That's just the way it works. Sometimes it's extreme, like racial and gender, where people have been murdered, all kinds of stuff like that. That is the way of this world. And it is the way the world functions. And if you think you're going to change that, good luck. Really good luck, because you're trying to bring union to something that is fundamentally crafted out of division. It's crafted out of division, and it maintains that division. So if you try to bring that together, of course it's not going to stick together because it's a world of division. You are not divided. No one is divided in reality, but the world is. The world is. So what I was with this gender stuff, I want like bathrooms. So like, what's the problem with bathrooms? Like if you like, I mean, how do people feel if there's things about protect, which there are, like, we hide behind our clothes and we protect our our private parts and stuff like that from each other. So we have a men's restroom, we have a women's restroom. It's been for years because so that it's okay for the men to look at their stuff, and it's okay, you don't want to do that too much anymore. But but in gyms, gym classes, we used to all be naked. The guys were all naked in gym class, but that's the way it was. It was no big deal. But we didn't have women in there, and the women didn't have the men in there because there was a lot of, there were sexual things that were involved with that, as far as the animal stuff that we have about sexuality and attraction and, things that stimulate us and stuff like that. So we have that, the men and the women, because it's always been the thing. Like, so if you're a man and you become a woman, I mean, like because of the equipment, if you really change the equipment, I guess you go in the women's restroom, right? And if you're a woman and you become a man, then you're supposed to go in the men's restroom. Although people have recognized from the very beginning that that doesn't work. And here's why it doesn't work. And this is a reality, because there aren't, what we're coming into is, this is just an example, and it's not limited to this, but we don't have two sexes anymore. We have at least four sexes now, at least four. And there's no denying it, because a man who becomes a woman is sexually is not the same, and of the world is not the same as a, like if someone grows up as a man and becomes a woman, their experience is quite different from a woman who stays a woman. And the same with the opposite way. If a woman becomes a man, that same, there's a whole thing psychologically. It's just not physiologically, it's psychologically as well in this world. And those differences they exist, and you can't ignore that they exist. I mean, what does it mean? I don't know what it means, but it does mean that there's a difference going on now. And those kind of things you can't ignore. I mean, like for instance, if you're I mean, what kind of stuff what kind of stuff happens in dating and stuff like that when, if you were a man and you become a woman and and you meet a man and you're attracted to a man who was a man and has not changed gender, okay? That whole thing, like how do you communicate, and do you not communicate that, or do you communicate that, and what happens from that? Because psychologically, there's going to be a lot of things going on. I remember when one of my best friends uh, was he changed gender. He was a counselor. I think he still is a counselor. It was a pretty brave thing to do to change gender as a counselor, because he had a whole practice built of him as a man. And this is actually here in Montana. And he changed gender. This is like 20 years ago. And and he was a really good friend of mine. He was in my church with me when I was a minister. I got to know him. We got to be good friends. We were in a international dinner group, like six couples of us, he and his wife. And and all of this was like straight couples at first. That changed through time because the people in the group changed. But beginning, they were straight couples, and we got to know each other really, really well. And he was like one of the first that change occurred, where he decided that he wanted to be a woman, that was really what was speaking inside him. So he went through the process of his name. I'm not going to give his full name because or his first name even. I'm going to say Barry. Barry became Martha. That's not the names, but Barry became Martha. And I was close to Barry, very close to Barry. And I remember sitting down at one of the international meetings with him because I was just going to be honest with him. And this is when he had already gone through a lot. He looked like a woman. He was wearing earrings like a woman. He was wearing his hair like a woman. He was wearing a dress like a woman, all that. And I remember talking to him and saying, and he was a counselor, so he was very willing to listen, which I'm really grateful for. And I said, Barry, I said, I'm in a quandary here because, Barry, I was really, really close to, but I don't know who Martha is. And that was true. I don't know that journey from Barry to Martha. I didn't go through Barry to Martha in my own development, in my own life. So that whole thing had a mystique and a mystery and an unknowingness about it, that in this world, when we're talking about, you cannot confuse reality, like who we are, really truly being able to observe, with the attachments of who we play on this planet. When we do those attachments playing this on this planet, there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up from that, a lot of drama from that because of that. And especially, if we were able at that point to go, you know what, if we were able at that point to go, isn't this wild? I was playing the role of a male and now I'm playing the role of a female, and I'm transitioning like that. And you're doing this male, still male. And like, isn't this world wild, how this amusement park we're in, how that these kind of things happen? And how does that work together? You know? But it wasn't like that. It was about, for him, there was a very serious issue about losing his practice because he had changed his sex. And what about his friends and his relationship with his wife and his relationship with his two children, his two daughters? All of that was in an emotional psychological flux that just was. And it did no good to look at that and say, well, he's just a woman right now, just put that to sleep. Just remember now, he always felt he wanted to be a woman. Now he's a woman. So just and see, that's the thing about this world. It's mysterious, it's confusing, and you have to go into it, but you got to learn to say, well, I don't understand it, and see if you can go into the non-understanding. But you can't really set the norms and set the boundaries around that as well as you couldn't set the boundaries and norms about the differences between a what we would call a straight man and a straight woman. You can't do that. I mean, men and women have known that for centuries, that there's differences there that come up that they don't understand. And then this other two sexual identities that are now emerging, they're in the mix now too. And then there's probably more than that. It's because of their gradients of masculinity and femininity within that whole realm. So it's a mystery. But now, so how do we deal with that? Well, it's like kind of like I said with my friend. It's like the best I could do was to tell him what was going on within me. Not that I would not be his friend, or that not that I thought anything was wrong with what he was doing, but I was struggling with understanding and feeling vulnerable. I was having trouble feeling as vulnerable with Martha as I was with John or Barry. Whoops, slipped there. I was having difficulty with that. Like it was like I was confused, and I was just I couldn't just say, I couldn't just jump in and say, "Oh, Martha, yeah, am I supportive of Barry becoming Martha? You bet, it's fine. I'm supportive, but I'm supportive of if Barry doesn't become Martha. Also, as well, I'm supportive of whatever happens there. But will we have experience and reaction to that? Yeah. But then we have to hold it in the context of who we really are, which gets back to observation. If you observe, then, I mean, that's the thing about observation on this planet. It isn't clinical observation. It's observing everything, including the emotional waves, the flavor. And if we do that, what we start to see is all the limits about what we think male and female is start to just go mix all over the place until we don't have a real clear psychic ground for even seeing that. Okay, let alone what it means socially, what it means legally, what it means, all that sticks back into the world. We have to see that and think about that. If you're going through that, to be able to ride that wave and still let go of it, it's almost like I call this place an amusement park. It's like you got on the ride, you were on the ride as a male, and now you're getting on the ride of male transitioning into female, or the other one like that. But along the way too, you're riding with your other passengers too, and you're also experiencing all of that with them, of how they are with their energy with picking that up. All of that is going on. You have to you learn to start stepping back, and once you start learning to step back, I mean, it all basically comes back to understanding who you are and who you're not, because you have, Einstein says the most important decision you make is whether or not you live in a friendly or hostile universe. You can't live in a friendly universe and be tied into this world. That is impossible. That is impossible. You can make no sense of not only what I said about gender, you can make no sense of war, you can make no sense of relationship issues, you can make no sense of that because they're so complicated and they're so reactive. But from a sense of who you are, you can start to see that, because when you leave this planet, you will let all that go. You will not leave this planet as a male or a female or someone transitioning who had transitioned from one to the other. That is part of the stuff like tables and chairs that we leave here, because those are the attachments of the play that we've agreed to play in.
Dale, if we wanted to simplify, like a tagline for this program, above our heads, we have freedom from suffering. But what I've taken notice of is every single episode has one common theme. That theme is surrender.
Yeah. It's
And you're just going around telling us in a thousand, because the ego has countless ways of holding on. So your ministry goes around every single nuance of the ego that the ego can come up with, and you're unwinding. It's like you're untying those knots for us.
Looking at them, yeah, to seeing how basically, because I'm looking at them, and that even more than untying them, when I'm talking about looking at them, they start to unravel. And
Yes.
if you really allow that, you'll see them unravel. But for many people, for most people, they'll start to unravel, and people will gravitate to trying to keep that held together again, because there's all kinds of social, political, psychological norms and
Yes.
boundaries that are required to be maintained. Now, as long as that's going on, there's no freedom from suffering. No, there is no freedom. And that's good, because the suffering is what breaks that open, and then I mean, that's the spirit's, uh, I don't want to say it in a dualistic way. It's kind of like spirit's fail-safe program, but it's just how things work. I mean, a lot, you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Yeah, it will make you free. Will it be a pleasant experience? Not if what you're holding on to has to be pried from you. It's no, or like you have to go, when I did the dark night of the soul, nothing really happened to me. In fact, if anything, I looked back after it all and I said, that's really interesting, because the whole time I was there, I wasn't working. I had enough money to live on. It seemed like it would come to me. I lived in this beautiful place. I had all this stuff going on, but inside I was suffering tremendously because of the changes that were coming about, and I could not at that point let them go. I could not surrender to that. I could not surrender. I couldn't surrender till I could surrender. That's why, like, for instance, somebody asked me again that the other day, and I said, I can't teach surrender as a minister. I could easily get up and say, for freedom, you have to surrender. And then if somebody came up to me and said, well, how do you do that? I'd say, well, you surrender? This is how you surrender. Just don't surrender, and see how that plays out. See how that plays out. And take notice of what not surrendering does. And then, even for many people, it takes their whole life, and they don't get it till the very end when, like my dad was going like, Dale, I never thought this could be this hard. I wasn't with him when he made that breakthrough, when he surrendered. And then I'm sure when he surrendered, it was like, oh, and he was out. He was gone. He was free. But until that point, that's what happens. And again, that's why there's more than one of us involved with this, because individually, it's very difficult. I mean, it's a difficult process, not a hard process, not a this the process of it is not deterred by that in any way, but it's the pain of holding on that we get from that, from doing that, and on this world, we're still in that mode of really, like, especially individually. Now I look at the younger people right now, and the people who are all gravitating more and more to isolating into their screens and their technology that keeps them isolated from people. I love them. I just have faith in them, and I don't know what the word is. I understand that road they're taking, but collectively, they're setting the stage for a mass collapse. They're setting the stage for mass collapse. If they were individual and stayed individual, they're going to, this is generality, but many people, when they get older and they realize that they can't, they're not getting from a screen or isolation what they need, that they're missing that connection with another soul. Uh, uh, it's like a person. I was at a 12 step the other day, and he was sharing, and he'd never been married, and he was talking from so much pain. He was like 60 years old. He'd never been married or anything like that. And he was talking about what that meant. And I could tell it was really bothering him. The thing about a relationship, just any relationship, is the fundamental thing about why a relationship is so powerful is not the sex or not the things you do together. The most fundamental thing about that is just so powerful is if you're in a relationship, even if it's good, bad, or whatever, you have a mirror in front of you. that is not the mirror you have to hold up yourself. You have a mirror in front of you. And that is a powerful thing to have a mirror in front of you because you cannot not see the truth that makes you free. You cannot not see it. You may try to stuff it down, but that's why relationships can get so seemingly so bitter a lot of times, is because people are mirroring and they love each other and they mirror the stuff that's in there. Now, for me now, I do a lot of work on my own. It's seemingly I'm never on my own, but it seems like I'm on my own with my ego, and I talk about that where my ego and I are working kind of like that relationship. It's part of me. I'm just using it, and it's showing me what's inside me, rather than trying to change me, tell me to react. It's actually bringing it up because we've already had the conversation, and not the conversation, but the clear conversation where my ego's saying, "You're not going to do anything about changing any of this because you can't, can you?" And I go, "No, I can't." It's going, well, okay, then why do I exist? And of course, I'm going, well, you exist because you exist, and I love you for it. I don't know what you're about. And then, of course, the ego starts a couple of years later, I start noticing what it's doing, which is it's just digging down inside the stuff inside me and bringing it up almost as if to say, do you know you have this inside you? And usually it's from a mirror of someone helping to see that, reacting with, my ego reacts to it. And it goes, you still have that in you. And of course, there's no respite anymore to be say, well, that person caused that in me. That's their problem. I wouldn't have this if they hadn't said that to me or done that to me. No, 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 no. Because I'm disturbed because I'm disturbable. And if I'm disturbable, I am attached to something very, very deeply and tightly, and usually unconsciously. And we are all of us are attached to the body, it seems like, pretty much. When we're not the body, we know that the body will dissolve, it will wear out in this existence. And that's why nobody wants to look at death. Because if you're looking at the body as who you are, and it's going to wear out, what does that say to you? It says to me, that's my end. I hope there's something afterwards. But the reality is, no, you're not your body. In fact, your body is kind of a limit. It's a wonderful play toy and a vehicle to be on this planet with, to experience sensually, everything from, walking in the park to having sex or whatever, eating and reading and all kinds of things like that. But it's not you. It's an expression that you have given form, that in fact all of us have given form. I'm not going to say you have given form, because the you is so limiting again. It's like we have collectively given form to each other. All right. And we're playing that game that we are those forms we've given that form to and attached to. You go to a 12-step meeting or any kind of particular, I like 12-step meetings because I'm using them because whenever you speak, you have to say, like if you're in an addiction group, for instance, like that, you're supposed to say it's alcoholism. You say, my name is Dale and I'm an alcoholic. All right. Okay. Well, you're not an alcoholic and you're not Dale. You're not even Dale. Like when I go to meetings now and I speak, I just say Dale because I don't have to explain it. And some people wouldn't want to hear it explained, but I'm in my mind, what's the truth is I'm not Dale, but I'm called Dale. That's what people call me. So yeah, Dale. And I don't say I'm an alcoholic or anything like that anymore, not because I'm afraid of it, because it's nonsense. It's just not, or I mean, I don't go to AAs anyways, but if the group was an alcoholic one, I wouldn't say I'm an alcoholic. I'd say, if anything, if I needed to say something, I'd say, Dale here, alcoholism. That's been the journey that I'm been working with here. It's not a condition. I'm an alcoholic. When you say I am something, you can't in reality, you cannot attach your real name to anything of this world. That's a lie. And that's that's a lie and a funny obscenity to do that, to say, I am this, I am that. No, you're not that. I am is free. You are the light of the world. But the character I play, all right. And then that's why in 12 step, when it talks about the first three steps, and they say you can't, in a nutshell, it says I can't do it. God can, I'll let God do it. Because the I they're talking about is not the I am. I can do it. Yes, I can do it because I am the whole of the three steps in one. I can surrender, and everything that was within me washes through and changes everything. Okay, it just frees me. It ends suffering. It ends suffering. And then the rest of the 12 steps become kind of like reflective points, like one of the steps is like taking inventory immediately as things occur. And a lot of times people thought that meant, well, when you offend someone, fess up to it right away. Well, at the beginning, that's how it could look. But as you work with that, what it becomes is, as you live something that is a lie, you fess up to it right away. Of course, you have to. Because not because it's the right thing to do or it makes you better, but because you're sitting there going like, okay, my partner said this. I got pissed at her for this. I think, I felt like she shouldn't have said that. She's the cause of it. Wow, what a crock that is. No, I gotta own that. I gotta make amends for that to me right now. Like, I gotta correct, I gotta let that go right now. That is not what happened. And that may have just happened in my mind. I certainly don't have to go to my partner then and say, this was going on in my mind. I need to tell you what my that's too, that isn't going to do that much. What does do it is actually modeling it. If you model it, then people see that. They see who you are, and they remember in the same sense who they are, and they start modeling that too. Because it's not a hard thing to model. It's just not in this world, it's not a safe thing to model. And by safe, I mean, because there's a parameter of safety in this, and a judgment and a level as to what safety is. And that's to keep certain things out of your life. And why do our mystics a lot of times get murdered? Because they say things that are just too true. Look at Martin Luther King or Jesus or any of those people. They say things that are too true, and people, the massive people go, you have said too much. I'm going to kill you and end this. And then they go, I didn't end that, did I? It's still with me,
Didn't
isn't it?
work. How'd that
Yeah,
work for you?
still there, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it's like, so that surrender is the only path, because surrender is expansion. Now, this is the thing surrender is expansion. Just like forgiveness isn't like, I forgive you, you jerk. Forgiveness is, oh, I was mistaken. No harm, no foul. There was nothing there. Oh, that's freedom. It isn't something you do to pat somebody and say, "Oh, I'm a good person, so I'm going to forgive you." No, that isn't what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is letting go. It's surrender. It's surrender. Yeah.
I had to write that down really quick. Surrender is expansion, because that's the topic. That's the title, I mean.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah. So, yeah. So looking about, seeing the truth in things, especially, getting to this place where you realize you don't have to, your ego used to say, and for many people, well, mine used to say this a lot and still says it sometimes, but the ego's always saying, if you look at the truth about something, then you're going to have to do something to change it because you're not living that. So you're going to have to change something here. Not true. Not true. Not true at all. Not true at all. All you have to do is start looking, know the truth, and the truth itself will set you free. Know the
That
truth about suffering, and it will free you from suffering.
that
Period.
that right there is perfect, Dale, because that right there is like that real small nuance. Because you're right, the ego says if you see it, you're going to have to change it, but you just poured a whole new light on. All we have to do is see it. It will
Right.
be
And that's why it's so hard to see it, because that message is so ingrained in us.
right.
It's
Got it.
saying, I will not look. I will not look because this will put me in a place that I cannot, is untenable. It'll put me in an untenable situation. And that's a lie. That's a lie.
That's the lie right there. You bullseye on that
It
one.
will put you in mystery, but beautiful mystery and freeing mystery. It will put you in the land of miracles. It'll
There
put
we
you in the
go.
land of, and then not just occasional miracles, it will put you in the land of everything is a miracle. But it's surrender, and that, and
Surrender.
yep, and you got to look at that. To look like what is that in me? That is, not even look at what is in me. Like, and you have to. That's one of the truths you have to look and say, I won't surrender because I'm afraid of what surrender will do. And then you can question that and you can go, what do I really think surrender will do? And then you'll start going down the rabbit hole of the nonsense that you really think, eventually get down to, well, I'll lose control of the suffering I'm trying to craft and maintain. I'll lose control of that. But
You know,
also you'll
every
lose it. You'll lose it.
every time you speak, I got a big smile on my face because I mean, stuff. I got bells going ding 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 ding. I'm putting like, but I don't know
Right.
what to say. You leave me speechless, Dale.
Listen, because
That's
it's a good one. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. It's fun how this works. And I just so great, I'm so grateful we have this time together
I
because
know,
it ex- it I love to, so much comes through me on insight,
I
but
know.
when I'm with you and I'm with someone we're listening together, it's just like everything just starts pouring out
I
around
mean,
us.
I get
Free.
all these. I get all these visuals, and one of them, of all things, it came from a Scooby Doo cartoon. Remember, I don't know if you used to watch Scooby Dooby
Oh
Doo.
yes. Yeah.
Where are you? Anyway, so Scooby, it was always a silly cartoon. They were always chasing some monster, and they were being chased by a mummy. And for some reason, Scooby bites the one of the mummy's, wrappings and couldn't let go, and the mummy goes, "Bee, bee, 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 bee," and whines, and it's empty. All it's completely empty. And I'm thinking that's just it. Why are we running from a mummy? If we just unravel the mummy, there's nothing
That's
there.
right.
It's been a school.
I love Terry Cole Whitaker used to have in one of her books she's a longtime teacher and most people won't recognize her, but Terry Cole Whitaker had a story where about which is very similar to one that I had in a dream where or hers was she was chasing she was being chased by a monster around her room or something like that, and it was slothering, it was coming after her in this dream, and I'm gonna get you like that, and she's running around, and finally the monster gets her into a corner, and it's like and she says, what are you gonna do to me? And the monster goes, I don't know, lady, it's your dream.
It's your dream.
It's your dream, yeah. And it's like, that's how it is, and it's like you let go of it. And in the dream world, I learned at a young age, I don't know how that happened, but I learned that whenever the dreams got too intense, I would actually wake myself up in the dream. I would go, if the pirates are getting too close, I'd go, no, no,
Uh,
wake me up here now.
Wake
And
me
then
up.
I'd be okay. I'd be all right. Well, it's the same thing here, except we think the pirates are real. We think the mummy's real here.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, so that's it, Dale. We've been doing this for about 50 minutes now. So, and as always, I'm going to go back and listen to this. But definitely, what was the topic? I see. That's why I have to write this down. Surrender is expansion. And we covered two other good topics. You covered the transgender topic, and then you stated what relationships are all about. Relationships are about mirroring. And as you were
Yeah.
saying that, I was having bells because I had in the last 12 months I had a lot of mirrors come right up in front of me. And it's perfect that you're talking about this because this, people, I kept, asking myself, what do I do? What do I do? And I kept hearing surrender, but how? Well, anyway, the last 50 minutes have been the how. So
Yeah.
here's the answer to my prayer.
And think about relationships because I know my relationships have changed, but if you really want to find freedom and you want to be really free, the best kind of relationship you can be in actually is someone who brings up all that stuff in you.
There it is.
There it
Bingo
is.
and bullseye on that.
Right. And so you could be in a relationship where you say that he or she's a pain in the ass. And
It's
well,
not.
that being a pain in the ass, if you're at a place where you're ready to start looking, this is your teacher. This is
This is
this
our
is your
teacher.
guru. Your perfect mirror.
I
If
know.
you're just still into like identifying with the world and trying to get the best sex and food and sensations you can get, well, yeah, I can see why you just I'm going to dump this relationship. I'm going to look for a better
Ugh.
person for that. But when you start finally getting ready to do it, and which you eventually will, you'll see that that person who's bringing that up in you is really giving you that opportunity because you're disturbable. You don't think you're disturbable, and you're living with all that disturbance inside you, and they're giving you this opportunity to actually see it, to actually, rather than just choke on it underneath and not ever see it, they bring it up to help you, well, go, oh my gosh,
Um,
I'm disturbed. Yeah.
yeah, it was
Why
in
am
me
I
the whole
disturbed?
time.
Yeah.
Dale, an hour with you is like a high calorie meal. This is that's a compliment too. All right. So anyway, this is Reverend Kenneth Price. I've been here with Reverend Dale Blackford on Sunday, October 27th. 2ormore1.com with the number 2. If you're watching this, and you guys who are leaving the comments, thank you. I love those comments. So keep sending them. Go down into the check out his links. Check out my links. I'm Reverend Kenneth Price.com and 2ormore1.com. We've got 2 websites going side by side. So anyway, thanks again, Dale.
Thanks, Kenny.
It's gonna take me
Always
a while.
beautiful.
I've got to integrate this call. So I got the rest of my Sunday is gonna I'm gonna go get some dinner and just really feel into it, because we covered
Yeah.
a lot of bases, but it was right
And
on, spot
I'm
on.
integrating it too. It's like, because it comes out and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
watching the whole thing while I'm saying it. And a lot of times I'm watching, I'm going, oh yeah, oh, I can see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is the perfect collaboration. All right, that's it for this
Okay.
weekend. God bless, and may the force be with you.